Having seen Michael Tidser depart after last weekend's loss, Rovers can now turn their attention to another club who opted to try their luck elsewhere as they take the trip to Firhill to face Partick Thistle. Since Kris Doolan was given the Kirk fan outing at the Cracker Factory treatment, Brian Graham has overseen 2 draws and 2 wins for the Jags, and Mark Wilson is allegedly involved as well, somewhere apparently. But yes, it's going to be the big question now of can Raith Rovers keep themselves in the hunt for the 4th place spot. This is the Oh No 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 podcast. My name is Robbie Weir, and of course I'm, as ever, delighted to be joined firstly by Leslie Mabin. How are you doing, Les?
Very well indeed. Michael Tidser is niet langer hoofdcoach van Dunfermline Athletic. Tot ziens.
He's been waiting, he's been practising, and he is back. We'll come back to you in a moment, Leslie, just for a wee bit more about that. Blair, how are you getting on?
Very well, mate. Very well. I'm actually delighted that for once it wasn't our club that cocked up our podcast 20 minutes after we finished it. But yeah, no, delighted. And I read somewhere today that they took longer to appoint him than they did to sack him.
Wouldn't really potentially surprise me. I mean, 11 games and yeah, just
50, was it 59 days he was in charge? And it took longer than that. Was it longer than that between the 2 managers, I think? Oh, brilliant.
Who knows? Who knows?
Basket.
But, I was certainly checking my phone to see during that post-match podcast to see whether they would sack him during it, just so that we could have the added value of laughing in real time. And then, of course, we've got Scott Fleming joining us as well. How are you getting on, Scott?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. As we've said, we were saying on Sunday after it was, or was it Monday that he got announced that he was gone, but it's went for, we were having the most banter season going at the whole league, and for some reason Dunfermline thought, nah, Ken, what, we're going to jump this, and sacked the manager within 59 days. I know that we sacked one on the first day of the season, but at least by that point he'd been in the job for a couple of seasons. But aye, all a bit mental, but we're done with them for this season, so hopefully they continue their struggles.
Yeah, ideally. Les, we'll just come back to you just briefly. Just wanted to get your thoughts on the Rovers' performance last week, and just what did you make of the whole circumstances, and your thoughts on the last derby victory?
Something I was thinking about while I was listening to the pod, the amount of time we spent talking about Dunfermline was quite incredible. And it's not the first time. It was great fun, don't get me wrong. It was remarkable. The same thing happened with Partick, where we had a good 25 minutes of the pod devoted to the Banzo episode. And we had something similar happen in the Aki's game as well. We've had a habit of spending an awful lot of time talking about the opposition. And I was reflecting on this a bit. And I think to an extent it does say something about Barry Robson and how he's got us set up. You know, we're not on a wild run of form. We're not on a 10-game unbeaten run. But he's really steadied the ship. He's come in. He's not winning every game, but he's dragged us out the shit and put us in a position to still be in the hunt for the playoffs. And I think the Dunfermline game for me was a great example of that. So they were rotten, don't get me wrong. But like I've said before when I've been on here, there's so many times last season we came away from games thinking they were rotten, but we let them back into it. You know, we've had so many games where we've let the opposition back in. So I do think it is, to an extent, also a testament to how we're setting up with the limited players that we have at our disposal, that we're going out, we're grinding out these results, and we're doing it in such a calm and controlled fashion that we're having to fill the podcast by talking about other teams. So I think there is a, with my sensible head on, there's a bit of a reflection on us there. Either that or it's just a gold medal in mental gymnastics, I don't know.
He's definitely made the that whole section we have in tonight's show about picking the team lineup. Mm-hmm. He certainly shortened that section down a little bit.
It really has. I mean, I've got lineups as a point, but I did a lot of my questions are going to be about that. And I think you hit the nail on the head though, Leslie. I think we've doubled the number of multiple goal wins in a sense of like winning by 2 goals or more already than last season. I know that Neil Collins had a couple of those, but yeah, it's just attritional, but it was successful. You'd rather be in our shoes than theirs, let's put it that way, instead of doing the battle of a relegation battle. So yeah, we will of course move on. Friday night's game, first point of order is the actual run up to the game itself. So Rovers, not the first time that they've done this, Blair, but again putting buses on for the fans, trying to encourage people to get through in person. What did you make of that?
Just, I think it was actually you that put it in the group chat, Robbie. Just another example of our board being good. Like it's really good to see. It is an important game in the sense that if we have any chance of making fourth, then it's make or break. Like if we lose on Friday night, then fourth's off. Like it's just not going to happen after that. And so how do you kind of maximise your opportunity of making it an occasion for us is getting as many Rovers fans through there as possible, and so putting the buses on and doing it at a tenner ahead to get through is brilliant, because again on a Friday night, public transport, it's fine for getting there, but getting back after the game on a Friday night from Glasgow is not the easiest thing in the world. And it's live on a telly, so it's a perfect excuse for folk to just sit in the house and no bother. So actually kind of encouraging folk to go along and trying to get a bit of a bigger support to go there and create a bit of an atmosphere, it's got to be a good thing. So yeah, hats off to the board again, because it is it's almost like a last roll of the dice, if you like, for that fourth. And so we've got nothing to lose but kind of going for it.
Yeah, I think that it's I don't think anyone's going to be saying anything otherwise than outside of the last roll of the dice, at a best optimistic take. Like, I'd imagine there will be some people that will probably be like, nah, fourth's gone. But I think that if we were to win on Friday, then it's unquestionably on the table. You'd be looking the other side and you'd be saying, okay, well, we've beaten Partick and we're only a few points behind, so it puts maybe a bit of pressure onto them. But yeah, you obviously know yourself with the work that Stevie does in terms of putting on buses. It's not exactly an easy thing to coordinate as well. So yeah, fair play to the club for being able to get those put on, especially at such short notice. So yeah, our opposition, of course, Partick Thistle. Scott, what have you made of the interim duo that seems to be slightly heavily favoured towards Brian Graham getting the media sort of spotlight and doing those duties, and just how things have worked out for Thistle so far? They've decided, obviously, they came out quite recently in a statement, I think last week, to sort of say they're focusing on the sporting director aspect first, and then they're going to look maybe later on as to a more permanent manager. But what's your thoughts been on how Brian Graham and Mark Wilson have done so far?
Yeah, I mean, they've done probably as good a job as the fans probably would have wanted them to do. They've won 2 and drawn 2, so they're unbeaten in their 4 games in charge. I know that I think most of the games out of the 4, I think they've had 3 of them are at home, so that always helps that you're getting that sort of home advantage under your belt again. So that'll be after Friday night 4 and 5 for them. So they've kind of had a sort of an easier sort of run into it, the fact that they've had so many home games and they can try and put in their own ideas to the team. Brian Graham, the fact that he was already playing in that team, I'm sure he was probably thinking, being one of the most sort of experienced guys in that team, that he's probably been trying to already, before Doolan got sacked, put his own ideas of what probably should be happening. And so now that he's kind of the voice of reason now that can do that, and Mark Wilson, I think, is probably just putting the cones out for them, to be fair, on a midweek game. Because if they're asking him for management ideas, then good God, because he had a shocker at both AirJ and Beacon. But I think also they seem to have changed their formation as well and gone to a back 3, which probably actually suits them better in terms of the fact that who they've got as centre halves, and it helps the fact that, like, for instance, they played Ayr last weekend there, and they won 2-0. And when I seen the Ayr team, I thought that's going to be a tough test for that Partick defence, because it was Curtis Main and Oakley up front, so both like big guys. And to be fair, I didn't watch the game, so I don't know. But the way that I would think that happened was the fact that Ashcroft and O'Reilly probably were happy with that, because they like the sort of aerial battles. And this is what I said before we played Partick in the 3-0 game that we won. We have to play football against Partick because they'll just eat everything up if we just punt it up to Finley Pollock or punt it up to Gullen. It's different if you do what we were doing against both Livy and against the Pars as well, where we were actually, it was more sort of structured long passes, sort of in behind the fullbacks, and Finley Pollock really threatened them all night last night because he was just all over the place running at the defence. So if we can get something like that going again this Friday, I don't think guys like Macbeth, Ashcroft and O'Reilly will be wanting to chase Finley Pollock for 80, 90 minutes on Friday night, because none of them have got any pace about them at all. So, and even in the midfield, you've got Bannigan, who's still in there after he'd lost at Starts Park a few weeks ago. It'll be interesting to see how Meg was getting on, because again he had a shocker against us and got hooked at half time, and yet every game up until then he seemed to have a brilliant game against us. So hopefully it means that Dylan Easton can get a good run at him again. But yeah, with their change of system, I'll be interested to see how we sort of battle that, because they even seem to be using Logan Chalmers as a sort of almost like a false nine. They're not using him out wide. They're kind of playing him just in and around Graham. And he'll probably get the sort of license to go out wide and put balls in the box. But he seems to be somebody that Graham's going to be knocking the ball down to, and then he's got to try and work his magic, I suppose, to create something. But I'm intrigued, because I do think that, I agree with Blair, this is a must-win game for us. If we do not win this, playoffs are off. And you're then into the territory of you're probably one result away from being completely safe. So then you're in the territory of going, right, well, we've got 5 games of nothing to play for, but we'll deal with that come Saturday, depending on the result.
Yeah, Logan Chalmers was one that I wanted to sort of focus on, really, because I feel like he sort of came into his game and been chipping in with the goals and the assists recently. Leslie, what have you made in terms of his uptake and form? Just as Scott rightfully mentioned, there does seem to have been a bit of a formational change for Thistle. They seem to have switched to that back three and then using him playing off Brian Graham or potentially Alex Jakubiak. So what have you made of that in terms of his contribution and sort of finally seeing him hit the heights that we kind of know that he can?
It's not ideal. From our point of view, it's not ideal because he loves a goal against us. He scored against us for Ayr. He scored against us for Inverness. And he has not yet scored against us for Partick. So like Scott says, I think from as far as I can see, they're using him slightly differently under Brian Graham. And he's been used in a more central position. They're almost kind of using him effectively like a front two. And he's doing something a bit different. And he's certainly been going through a wee purple patch. He's been banging in the goals. He scored in the last 2 games. Hasn't scored in the 2 before that, but he was getting a few on the score sheet before then as well. So he's had a much stronger second half of the season than he's had to first half of the season. I mean, I think the fact that the game last time out at Starks Park was a bit of a banter fest is also going to be a concern, because there's a lot of guys who have got a point to prove. Most obviously Bannigan. Potentially, the Chalmers as well. Great Graham, who was suspended for that game. There's a lot of guys out there who will feel Megwa particularly, who will feel they have a point to prove after an absolutely appalling performance at Starks Park. And I would expect it would be a significantly tougher game than the one that we had. Just as an aside, though, as I was thinking as you were talking, Mark Wilson, will he have played with Barry Robson at Celtic?
Probably, aye.
Probably.
Aye.
Possibly at Dundee United, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a good point. I thought about that. Yeah, I mean, they must have, because I know he was injured a lot at Celtic, but yeah, their time frames must have overlapped.
I'm going to rewind a little bit. You mentioned our favourite, Stuart Bannigan. Blair, do you think that's one to watch with him and Jamie Gullen?
I hope so. I hope the first thing that Jamie Gullen does is come out and laugh in his face, and just to see whether he actually reacts or not. I would imagine that'll have calmed itself down by now. But yeah, I mean, it was a genuine head loss. It's not something you see very often in football anymore, but he completely and utterly lost the run of himself. So I would fully expect the 10 busloads of Rovers fans plus to be giving him some stick just in the vain hope of getting in his heat, to be honest. But I would be amazed if lightning strikes twice in that regard. But God, it would be good.
Yeah, it's really hard to see a situation where he lets it boil over in the same way that he did, because that was a proper heads gone, like chasing them about the pitch and try to siphon them down. And then, as Leslie's rightfully mentioned, sort of players having a point to prove. It's one of those ones where these things can be quite cyclical at times. So fingers crossed that he doesn't put in an absolute brilliant performance for Thistle. So yeah, just Scott, you touched on earlier, but Luke Macbeth again. He seems to be another player that seems to have sort of redeemed himself in the eyes of the Thistle support, or maybe in terms of the outsiders, I would say. So I think Thistle fans have probably spoken a bit more vocally in support of him than maybe those outside the club, particularly on this podcast. But he seems to be thriving as part of a back three. Do you think that's maybe the way to get the best out of him for Thistle? And Brian Graham and Mark Wilson sort of maybe seen that, having that sort of Ashcroft and O'Reilly obviously with a lot of experience next to him. Do you think that's maybe the best way to get out of him, given he's maybe a bit raw at this level?
Every chance, to be fair. I think Macbeth probably isn't good enough to be playing centre half at the Championship in a back four. And I think they have tried it a few times when Doolan was in charge and it just wasn't working. Again, I think he's somebody that lacks a bit of pace. I'm not sure he's the best in the air, but again, I'm going off just games that I've seen him play. Like, I can't speak for all his games, but whenever we've played them, I've never thought he's the best in the air, even though he's a half decent height. I've heard a lot of the Rovers fans say that he's just absolutely dug meat. But again, I've seen a hell of a lot worse players this season than him play in the league. But I do think...
Which ones from last week are you picking?
You could put the whole team. But no, I think Macbeth's just another one of these guys that if we can get sort of balls over the top of Megawatt and get him chasing it out wide after the likes of Gullen or Pollock, I think you're then dragging him into areas he does not want to be going in. Same with O'Reilly or Ashcroft. But yeah, I think he seems to be a tidy enough footballer on his day. But yeah, I do think he seems to be one of these guys because he's came from it was the league that Auchinleck are in, was it not? He came out of
West of Scotland, I think. Aye.
So like it's a big jump last season to make to get there, and he was kind of thrown in right away. But I mean, he's done an alright enough job to be kind of doing fine at this level, but I do think that it's probably the one sort of area in that team that we need to be targeting if we are going to put in balls behind for the likes of Pollock and Gullen to kind of run onto.
Yeah, because I noticed they'd signed Sean Kelly, who'd previously been at sort of Dundee and Livingston, but he doesn't really seem to have had much of an impact. I think the two...
I was going to say, just on him in particular, Macbeth, I think I'm maybe in the minority on this, but I've mentioned this in the group chat more than anywhere else, but I actually quite like him. I don't know what it is about him. I think he's got a bit of ability. He can spray the ball about with the ball at his feet. He's decent enough. He can ping a ball. He scored a couple of absolute rakers. And the kind of point I was making last week about McCann, he's another one I kind of think if he had a coach, somebody was actually coaching him, because Doolan just didn't seem to be getting a tune out of anybody towards the end at Partick. But he's got all the attributes. He really does to be a decent player at this level. But time will tell, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Duncan Cameron's retort on that in a post-match.
Yeah, I know, and it's actually Ian Lattle's the other one. He absolutely hates him. Hates him.
But no, I mentioned there Sean Kelly just before you were saying about Macbeth there. A couple of other signings that they made. Our good friend Alex Jakubiak, potential for cartoons there, Blair. He did score against Queen's Park. He came back, so he
did, and I'm loath to kind of jinx it, but he's dug meat. He is just no any good based on everything I've seen. I'm saying Macbeth's got potential. Jakubiak does not. in my opinion. So queue up a hat-trick on Friday night because it's almost guaranteed now. He's just such a strange signing for them. It's like, do you know what I mean? The manager, who is also the captain, who is also the number 9, signs another striker to no really play very much. I don't know. How do you sell that? What does, Brian Graham picks up the phone. Alex, I'm looking to bring you in. I'm not going to play you. You maybe get 20 minutes if I get tired. Bizarre. I don't get it, but no, I think he's mince.
Yeah, I
think it says a lot actually about the lack of strikers that are available in the division. And, Jamie Gullen's probably done best out of all the guys that got picked up by the various clubs in January. So, we know that Adeloy was training with Partick, and the story was that he failed a medical. Then he ended up at Morton and managed a game, and then the reason he failed the medical seemingly became apparent. I think it does just show how slim pickings they are out there. I mean, the only other chance he does have of getting on the pitch, of course, is to be there when Brian Graham gets suspended for mouthing off at the ref too much. But I think it's an indication of the lack of strikers that are out there, that's who you're sort of bringing in when you're really trying to secure the 4th place.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And again, as ever, when we're playing a game against a Brian Graham team, you want your players to be straight at the referee when he's greeting away. So hopefully, it wouldn't surprise me if he's in the book within 20 minutes, to be honest, because you know what he's like. He's just completely non-stop.
I'll be honest, Robbie, that would surprise me, because Brian Graham seems to have the wool pulled over everybody's eyes. When you watch a game, it's like the Brian Graham show. It's like, that thing about it's like Dick Campbell, these good old characters of Scottish football. Piss off. He's just a greeting face, moaning git. And somebody needs to actually... When that referee that sent him off against Falkirk, what's he doing on Friday night? Get him done. Get him in.
I don't even know. Does anyone actually know who the referee is for Friday? Because I've not even checked. I mean, it's
no came up on my score app for who it is yet.
Yeah, better not be Colin Stephen.
It's just there's an endless list where you just sigh as soon as you see it. It's just there's a good few. Even last week, because it's like I said before, like the referee was the one that sent off Liam Dick at Almond Vale for putting in a tackle, and taking too long with a throw in. So every game after, it's been straight away. We played Aki's later on this season, and he was the referee as well. So as soon as it was 15 seconds or a throw in, you had people screaming away, that's a booking, come on.
Well, the guy that sent off Brian Graham was the guy that was refereeing our derby last Friday.
Great guy. Great guy. Had a great guy.
Never said anything bad within the last minute about him, was it? Final point, Leslie, just about Thistle. Just seemed to have stabilised a bit defensively. Obviously, they brought in Josh Reid, from Ross County. He made his debut against us, sort of switching to that back line. So do you think this is going to be quite a stern test for our front two that we're sort of preferring at the moment?
I think it probably will be. I mean, the one thing I wouldn't say this is a must win, but it's a must not lose. So I think we have to not. The way I think about it is, I think we need 4 points from the next 2 games. What we need a win and a draw, clearly, if it's going to be 4 points. There's no other way you could get to 4 points. I don't know what I'm trying to say there. But yeah, I think we need 4 points from the next 2 games to still be in the hunt for the 4th spot. A draw wouldn't be a disaster. A win would be ideal. But it does look like that Partick defence and the kind of midfield that sits in front of them has actually tightened up quite a lot. And whether the victories they've had are a result of playing a Queen's Park side who are on a very poor run, and Ayr where the wheel seems to be coming off the wagon a bit, or whether that's a result of them having actually turned a corner remains to be seen. But it's I think it's going to be a much sterner proposition than the team that came out and that we played at Starks Park. I think with Doolan out of the picture now, you've got that new manager bounce, and like Scott was saying, you've got a number of home games for him to bed that in. So I would be happy with a draw, but that does then mean we need the win in the Morton game as well.
Yeah, I think that with it, you look at the fixtures that are coming up for both clubs. So obviously we've got Thistle and then Morton. So if you can get a result against, as you say, one of those at least, and then in your hypothetical win and then a draw and then a win, then the fixture after that for Thistle is actually to play Morton. So you've either got Morton taking points off of them, or they're knocking Morton out of any potential contention as well, depending on the results, how that all falls out. But the biggest cliche in football, you've got to take it one game at a time, don't you? And the circumstances, we've seen that so often this season, where the circumstances just change within the space of 2 or 3 games, just radically differ depending on how like a club's outlook is and where they're at. Final point on Thistle, just before we do move forward onto a break and then looking at Rovers. Aidan Fitzpatrick, there was actually a small piece put on the Thistle website earlier today, and we would obviously extend our best wishes to his mum, who's undergoing chemotherapy at the moment. Obviously a very, very difficult situation. So he's, again, it was pointed out that a lot of their fans were asking the reason, why has he shaved his head, what's going on there? The club have expanded on it, just say it's a show of solidarity for his mum. And again, I'm going to guess that's quite a big weight off his shoulders. And our thoughts go out with her just while she's undergoing treatment. Seems to be hopefully quite a positive outlook there moving forward. What we'll do is we will take a break and then we will come back and we will look at things from the Rovers perspective.
Blair,
Yes, mate.
you're a man,
Yes.
and you have thoughts and feelings and emotions.
Yes.
Are you good at talking about all that stuff?
Well, I try my best, but I don't know. Probably not as much as I should.
I'm the same. I feel better after getting stuff like that off my chest, but I don't do it anywhere near often enough. Have you heard about Andy's Man Club?
They're brilliant. They create a safe space for men to sit down and talk about the important stuff. And they do it right across the country as well.
Yeah, exactly. They've got more than 200 meetings across the UK, and it's every Monday night at 7 o'clock, including one at Starks Park.
And if anyone wants more information on it, they can go to andysmanclub.co.uk or search for Andy's Man Club on Facebook. It's okay to talk, and now we're going to get back to talking about the Rovers.
Okay, so welcome back to the Oh No podcast. So we're obviously looking ahead to Friday's match, and one person that we thought, Blair, that was going to be initially missing out, but turns out is going to make the game, Finley Pollock. Now, he's been called up to the under-21 squad and for Scotland, but has opted to remain for this game against Partick Thistle before then going off to Iceland to join up with his international teammates. Do you think that's quite commendable? Because, again, Finley Pollock, it's his first international cap, I believe, in terms of that side of things. What did you make of that?
I'll be honest, I think it's really strange, is my honest take on it. And I almost don't want to know the answer to the question of what prompted it. Like, where did it come from? My hope is that he's, spoken to the coaches or whatever, the staff at the 21s, and they've said, look, you're not likely to play. In the first game, you're going to be a sub. You might get on if things go well, but no, the plan isn't for you to play. And he said, well, it's quite a big game for us, obviously quite an important game for the season. I'd like to stay with the club. I'd hope that's the case, not that the club have pushed it or whatever, because it is quite a big deal for any player to be getting called up to your national side, albeit at 21s, but it's still quite a big honour for him. It's definitely a bonus for us. Vaughan's obviously not quite match fit yet, and it is kind of on his way back, and hopefully we can see a bit more of him on Friday night than what we've seen so far. But as I mentioned earlier on, team lineups is going to be a short segment because we kind of know exactly what Barry Robson's going to want to do. He's got a way that he wants to play, and Finley Pollock's really important to that, actually. And especially against a team like Partick. Like Scott said, there's not exactly an abundance of pace at the back for them. So taking arguably your quickest player out of the team in a position where his job is to run until he can't stand up it definitely takes a fair bit out the side. So yeah, positive from our point of view, but I thought it was a bit weird, I have to say.
Yeah, I did enjoy the discussion that you guys were having earlier on about Pollock in terms of sort of just the way that the perceptions about him. I think in terms of there was a bit of a disagreement in terms of how the outlook was, shall we say? As to you
That
were
was me being
obviously
positive about a player.
You were. But I think it's right, and I sort of made the point as to like, look, he missed the 1-on-1s against Livingston. And against Queen's Park, and I think if he scores those, then people are really sort of raving about him as being like, I can't believe, like, in terms of how we've converted this guy from a winger into a forward, and he's still scoring goals.
Totally.
Did tremendously well with the finish against Dunfermline, but then, I think it's
for me though,
overall...
he's getting those chances. Like, there's a lot in that, and he's 19-year-old. Do you know what I mean? Playing in a position that he doesn't normally play, and he's actually not just getting these chances. Like they're not being laid on a plate for him. There's an element of him creating them or making a really like we never really spoke about it after the Pars game because we were too busy slagging them off. But Finley Pollock's run, the actual run itself, the ball from Easton is beautiful. But if you watch Pollock, he really shapes his run to stay onside and kind of drag Benny in and turn him because he knows he's going to beat him in a foot race. And at 19-year-old, I think that's really impressive, actually.
Yeah, 100%. I think that as well, you look back to the first half of the season, we never really saw that from Lewis Jamieson.
No.
And we certainly weren't getting it from Cody David,
No,
to say the least.
no.
So yeah, it's. I think that there should be a lot of enthusiasm, particularly with the backline that Thistle have got. I mean, it's a lot of experience in that backline. But yeah, just to see how they can step up and how they shape up against Thistle should be very interesting.
And he gave them a torrid time in that game at Starts. And I know that they were a basket case that day, but I mean there was points in the second half where Finley Pollock, I remember one in particular, he almost bodied O'Reilly off the ball. O'Reilly's a big, strong guy. Like that's, again, like I say, I just think that there's a lot to come from him for a kid of 19. To be doing what he's doing in a position that is not his natural position. I think he deserves a hell of a lot of credit.
Yeah. Switching the focus now a little bit. Now, we've obviously been playing with the wing backs, Scott. Josh Mullen at right wing back. Do you think we could maybe be potentially a bit of a victim of our own success? Obviously, it worked well against Dunfermline, admittedly. They are absolutely awful. But yeah, they've obviously got the likes of Megwa in there potentially on the coming down the right hand side, or you've got on our right side you'll have Ray there, and potentially as well you've got Chalmers if he was to sort of drift out wide. Do you think that could potentially be sort of an area of contention where you would maybe want to see? I know it's not likely, but Barry Robson changing it up, or how are you? What are your thoughts going into this one?
I think if Scott Brown was fit, Doherty would probably be out wide for this game. I just think whilst Brunei's out injured, that I don't think he's going to take Doherty out of the midfield. I think he's just going to keep going with Mullen until Brunei's back fit again. I know you've got Sean Byrne there, but for some reason he's not really featured too much since he's came back for injury. So I don't know if he's maybe still kind of just getting back to full fitness or what, but I just don't really see much changing at all for last Friday. Again, it was a game that we didn't really get tested too much defensively, but we did see that Josh Mullen struggled against the Pars the last time, but yeah, I just don't think they really asked him any questions, to be honest, more aerially anyway. But yeah, as I say, I don't see him changing it really with Brunei out injured.
I think the big question is really how their Ray is sort of going forward, because we've not really seen too much, haven't we? He came on at half time in the game
Reid
against us.
Reid.
Reid. I keep calling him Ray. Just as sort of going forward in terms of what he offers on an attacking sense, because you know that Josh Mullen will still do the sort of offensive styles going forward. He'll be more than happy to do that side of the game. Leslie, do you think I'm maybe being a bit too down with the original question, or do you think there's reason for optimism there?
It's a weird one to think how we go about trying to solve this, because we really don't have a lot of options. There's really not a lot of levers that we can pull. And I think, like, Scott's hit the nail on the head, I think, that for whatever reason, Barry, either Sean Byrne is not fully fit, or Robson just doesn't rate him. For whatever reason, he seems quite reluctant to start him, which would seem like the obvious thing to do if Scott Brown's not available. So, yeah, it's hard to see if Jordan Docherty stays in that midfield position, what other option there is other than Josh Mullen at right wing back, other than playing somebody else out of position. Unless, like, it gets to 6:45 and, like, this big cloud of smoke comes up, and then George Guitow, fully healed and fit, comes out the smoke.
Like a Royal Rumble return.
Exactly, yeah. It's very hard to see what how you actually go about solving that. And the only thing I do think that has maybe helped with the defence a bit. So Fordyce has come in, and he's been better than he was earlier in the season. And it occurred to me that he's had 2 full seasons playing in front of Josh Raith. That's got to help. That's got to help that you've got a goalie behind you that you've played with for effectively 2 full seasons. So that makes me a bit less antsy about Docherty being taken out of the defence. But we're still really limited with regard to how many parts we can move about. So I don't think you are too down on the original question. There is always that worry with Josh Mullen at right back, that if you've got a quality attacking player, that they could get the better of him. But as I say, it's hard to see what you could do radically differently with the way we set up and with who we have.
Do you not think the nature of the shape, though, just having, like you said, having Fordyce just inside him defensively, but you've also got Doherty just inside him in the midfield as well.
Yeah.
So, like, the aerial bit, you'd hope that Fordyce goes over and helps to deal with. The pressing and attacking defensive side of things, you would hope that Doherty can kind of go over and help him out a bit. And you've got Matthews in there as well. Like, you're right, it's not the best of options. I don't think anybody... I mean, I joked a while ago, if you told us we're on our 3rd manager of the season and we were playing Josh Mullen at right back, I'd assume that we were sitting 10th. But, like, it's working. Ish.
Yeah.
No, I think that's reasonable enough to say, though. It's and again, it's not one of those ones where you're peeking through your fingers at it. Like, he's had enough good games there to sort of be able to justify and to sort of say, like, where he's held his own. Not his naturalised position, as we say. But, Blair, just to come back to you, do you think that the back 3, now with those sort of 3 centre-backs, now that we've got everyone sort of playing in that position that's sort of natural there, do you think that's sort of debate settled? Is it just sort of, should we expect to see that for the time being?
Yeah, I think it's, as we've kind of already mentioned, I think he's either by sheer bloody mindedness or by absolute design, he's stumbled upon a really kind of settled system and a really kind of like just consistent system, actually, as much as anything else. I actually just don't see him making big changes at all at any point. If they're not kind of like for like, I don't think they're going to happen. During games, I think if he absolutely has to change the system to fit an Aidan Connolly in or whatever, he'll do it. But I don't think it's in his game plan at all.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the questions that I had coming up, and to be honest, I think you've all answered it at some point, one way or another, whether there was any sort of realistic chance of any changes coming in, because again, we come off the back of such a comfortable win in the derby, and even prior to that, we'd settled against Livingston. I know that we had a nuke of a game against Queen's Park, but generally speaking, it's been relatively on the consistent side, would you say, since Robson's came in. only other point really is just the sort of no real update, Scott, on either of George Cattell or Scott Brown. Just what are your thoughts in terms of that side of things? All very quiet there.
Yeah, I mean, you almost forget that George Cattell is actually like on the books now. Obviously, you feel sorry for him that he's came in and some sort of reoccurring injuries popped up again. And I think, if I'm right, did Robson say that he kind of got sent back down to Middlesbrough straight away to kind of get it all fixed and whatever it was needing done? But I think, as far as I'm aware, I thought he was maybe back up the road. I might be wrong. I don't know, because we've not heard anything. So it could well have been, for all we know, never back up the road, and we might not see him at all. But
he's still training with Ross Millen.
But I really don't know. But when it comes to Bruni, yeah, I think we're almost at the point of the season where I think if we do lose tomorrow night, that you just don't risk him. And if it's not needed, because you're going to very soon, as I say, if we don't manage to win on Friday night and then we get maybe a result at Morton, we're pretty much safe. So you've then got 5 games really left in the season that there's no much riding on it. So then why would you go and risk Bruni when he could go and just completely recuperate and get ready for pre-season and next season, basically? But I think it was positive, the fact that when he went for the scan, it wasn't as bad as they thought it was going to be. But yeah, I think it's the case of if he's fit, then play him. But if it's even a question, then I would just kind of let him just sit on the sidelines for now. Because as I say, we've got options. It's different if we don't have Sean Byrne there on the bench or we don't have Matthews there. Then you're kind of like, oh, we kind of do need to play him. But we've got guys that can play in that position now. So whilst I think he's one of our better players, I wouldn't be risking him.
Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, I think this season it's going to be sort of probably a low threshold for being able to get into 8th place at a minimum. And I don't think that should be a worry for us based on what we saw last week or how Hamilton are doing, because again they seem to just be completely imploding as well at the same time. So yeah,
you see, Dave, I was going to say just on Hamilton today, I read something that they've basically said that under no circumstances will they consider sacking Rankin.
Yeah,
is that the dreaded vote of confidence? It sounded like they actually meant it though.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's Jerry Strain, who's the director of football or something, that their fans are all asking to get out of the club. And that's not happening.
Probably because they can't afford to sack him after the new deal they gave him.
Well,
the second lowest budget in the league.
Allegedly.
That's what I was saying earlier on. It's like when I set a budget for buying Christmas presents. Nah. There's budgets in there.
I thought you were going to say, for me, it could be just budget of buying crisps. There's no limit on that. But anyway, Leslie, final question. Got to get a dig in there at Dunfermline somehow. Do you think it will be an adjustment from playing a team that are absolutely god-awful rotten last week into playing a team that are actually decent and competent this week?
I think it will, but I think, like Blair says, I think what helps is that we've got a very clear and very settled formation. Everybody knows exactly what their job is and what they've got. When you come on, you know what your job is, you know what you've got to do, and I think that's going to help. I mean, again, like you guys were chatting about it in the post Dunfermline pod with Neil Collins. He was always playing 4D chess, and you never quite knew whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. He'd change formations in games, he'd be putting out cryptic instructions, people would appear in weird positions. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. With Barry Robson, that's categorically not the case. I'm fully expecting to have my usual meltdown around the 70th minute when the same 11 guys are still on the pitch, and we are sitting there with more unused subs than a former Soviet breakaway satellite state. But you know what you're going to expect, and I think that's going to help us. Just one final point as well. I was thinking about Finley Pollock. Is presumably Hearts must have had a say in this as well, with them being his parent club. They must, at some point, have, whether the offer came from us as a club or from him, we must have run it past them and said, he's your player, how would you feel about this? And they've clearly said, okay, he's playing well. He had a brilliant game. It makes sense to keep him in. So yeah, thanks, Hearts. Not much more to add other than that.
Yeah, probably a worry that Scott Gremmell's going to break him at some point, because he just seems to be pretty good at that. But yes, I think that it's going to be such a different game this week. Thistle just seem to have really, the games that I've seen them recently just seem to have been against Livingston. They went out great guns, dominated for the most part, and then sort of about the 60th minute the game just flipped on its head, and they seemed lucky to actually come away with the draw, Thistle. And then the Queen's Park game, I caught that on a completely legitimate stream online, and yeah, they scored early, and then for the rest of the game it was just Queen's Park just passing the ball about in midfield, doing very, very little with it, and then they scored on a counter at the end. So yeah, it's one to keep an eye on with Thistle as to how that goes forward, because as you say, they've turned a run that could have been, when it goes 2 draws, you think this is either going to go one way. They're either going to win a game and then it becomes a 3-game unbeaten, or they lose a game and it goes 3 without a win, and people are starting to question Wilson and Graham. So yeah, I'm interested to see how we handle Thistle. We've got a good record at Firhill over the last few seasons, and again, as well against Thistle in general, we've just got a pretty good record over the last few years, but it doesn't really count for much, does it? It's a new game going forward. So yeah, keen to see how we do. Is there any point in asking the question of lineups, or do we just want to do what we would do?
It's the same as last week. He's not going to make a change. Okay, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Anyone begging to differ, or are we all on the same page?
I don't expect them to change anything, but the only 2 changes that I had in my lineup was potentially like Byrne in the midfield, Doherty out to right wing back, and then potentially Liam Dick in for Ewan Murray or Callum Fordyce. But like, that's just potential changes. That's not necessarily what I think is going to happen. So, but other than that, I don't see anything else drastically changing.
Yeah, I think that I'm really intrigued to see over the next few weeks as to whether the consistency sort of reaps any benefits for Robson. I know he seems to have stuck with this sort of same players, keeping them on the pitch for as much as possible, but the impact that has, I'm interested to see how that pans out, because it could go either way. I think he's going to get all the credit if it goes right, and he'll get slaughtered if it goes wrong, because there's no other way with football fans, is there? I
think no matter what happens though, he's going to have to get either Vaughan or Marsh onto the pitch for more than 15 minutes on Friday night, because Pollock's not going to be available against Morton.
Yeah.
So he's forced into a change, whether he likes it or not. He's going to have to kind of replace Pollock. So whether he replaces Pollock on Friday night or not actually is immaterial. But he needs to get one of those 2 strikers on the pitch for more than 10-15 minutes for my money.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens and how that all unfolds. Anyway, Leslie has kindly, probably evilly, decided to pair us with should Mixter, should Dargo. How many clues have we got?
We've got 6.
Okay.
I'm waiting for the week where Les goes, we've got 1 clue. It'll take me 12 minutes to read it, and I will read it in French.
Clue is in the form of interpretive dance.
Yeah, one of those.
Right. Okay, so 6 clues. Clue 1. I have played for 9 clubs. Apart from Raith Rovers, only one other team's home kit has been blue.
Ooh.
That's an awfully bland clue for you, Leslie.
Or it's got 7 colours in it, so... One other blue.
One.
Straight away into the teamwork, lads.
Ross Perry.
Falkirk and Rangers, sorry.
Falkirk as well. I was forgetting about Falkirk.
Damn
it.
It's also just trying to remember that this guy's clearly a bit of a journeyman. 9 clubs.
Darren Smith.
Oh, it's nice to hear his name.
I'll tell you what, if anyone gets this on clue 1, fair play, by the way.
So we've got Falkirk, Rangers. What other Blues are there?
Peterhead, Stranraer,
Montrose.
Are you classing Kelly as blue? As blue and white?
Yeah, I would have said
Blue and
Kelly
white.
and Morton would be blue and white, so yeah, I would include the blue in that. Cowdenbeath.
Peterhead are blue as well.
Cowdenbeath, Peterhead, yeah. Ross County.
Yeah.
Inverness.
Thistle. No.
It's a fair few in it. I don't know how many clubs he played for, but Bobby Barr.
Okay.
By the way,
The only other blue that I can think is Morton. He could have played for somebody else that I've forgotten.
Albion Rovers, Livy.
I also don't know if he's played for 9 clubs.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the
Good
clubs
chance.
that he did play at, though.
Okay. Clue 2. Since football resumed after the COVID-19 pandemic, every competitive match I have played has been in a Joma or a Nike kit.
What a clue. What a clue.
So that could mean that he's been involved with the Rovers post-COVID, because we've been Joma since COVID.
Yeah.
What was it, Joma or
Nike.
Nike.
Nike?
But that means he's either not with us anymore. Who plays in Nike these days?
That's what I was about to say. Usually they're like the top sort of sides.
I'm always
Who
really
play-
jealous. Like Queen's
Adidas
Park
or
playing Adidas. Yeah, the 3
Aye.
stripes is really cool. Like, it'll always be cool. Nike.
I'll go
The
with
Celtics, Adidas.
Frankie Masonda.
Air definitely Arnie Nike or Joma. They're not that Area or
O'Neill's.
whatever it's called. O'Neill's.
O'Neill's. I'm not
So
sure
it's
if he's
only
played for
either
9
of
clubs
Joma or
either.
Nike that he's played in.
I've got a
after
weird
COVID.
feeling. Are Montrose Nike?
Don't know if they're blue though.
They are.
Because the
It's a
teams that
Nike.
play in Joma is us, the Pars, St Mirren.
Pars are that area.
Oh, have they changed? Have they?
Yeah, they changed
St.
away for
Mirren-
Joma.
St Mirren are still Joma. Bobby Barr hasn't played for St Mirren, I don't.
There can't be many
He
Nike
did,
kits.
side anecdote, he did once when he was playing for Morton kick a ball into the stand which flew into the face of a child. Now, as way of an apology, he offered to give them a signed Morton shirt just to wind them up.
Jesus.
So it was only either of Joma or Nike post-COVID.
Right, that's right, yeah.
Right,
Post-COVID.
okay. Fair enough.
I can't think of anybody wearing Nike.
Again, I don't know how many clubs he's played for, but the only other team in blue he's played for is Coventry, Dabo.
But then you would imagine Forest Green would have some.
Oh, it'll be some
Yeah,
help.
he's played for more than 2 clubs since COVID. Because that's the thing. If he's
all, like Coventry could play in Nike.
yeah, that's true. But then all the others would have to play in either Nike or Joma as well.
Nah.
Unless you're in my head.
Could it be Cody David, actually?
Thanks, I'll just change
Cody
the
David was at
Dabo.
because Cody David was at Everton
Was he?
Young enough, probably. Yeah, he was there as a youth prospect.
I couldn't tell you what kits Accrington Stanley had.
It wouldn't surprise me if they were someone like Joma, to be fair.
So you going with Cody David, Robbie, or Frankie
Yeah, I mean,
Musonda?
technically it's my second guess on this clue, but I feel like we gave up on the rules of
We're in the
this.
Go for it,
spirit of
mate,
helping
you're
each other out.
Go for
Neither
it.
of us have taken it at the end.
I haven't even got another guess, to be fair.
The fact that Leslie's encouraging me is probably a bad sign for my clue, or for my guess.
Jamie Gullen. I don't know what
Right.
the team in Ireland played in.
Whatever team in blue.
I think
would he have
9
played
clubs is going to work for him.
Well, 6 of them are us.
But it's technically only about 3 clubs.
Yeah, it's true, actually.
He's had 9 spells elsewhere, but
So, clue 3. Shirt sponsors include
Ooh.
a bus travel company, a drilling company, a gambling website, an educational services provider, and an author.
So to imagine
You just run them
That's
through
got to be
the
Val McDermott.
So I was going to say, there's your Eda's clue, Blair.
Can
Yeah, it's got to be
you,
Val McDermott.
you just run through them again, please?
Aye, sure. A bus travel company,
Uh-huh.
drilling services provider, an education provider, a gambling website, and an author.
Anyone been sponsored by the Megabus?
An educational provider? Do you mean a college, Les? Is that what you mean?
No comment.
So it's Fife College. Right.
Oh.
Who played for the Rovers at that point?
How long was what's her face on our jerseys?
Well, it would do. I mean, obviously, touchy subject, but it was up till like the end of 2022 season, was it?
But
Why did that come to an
when
end?
was the first year that she put her name on the top?
My
I can't
webcam's
remember.
conveniently gone blurry at this moment.
I spent 6 hours doing these clues on the drive down from Helmsdale. I do not want the podcast cancelled.
Allegedly.
I honestly, I can't get past Nike. Who the fuck wears Nike?
So I'm wondering with the drilling if that's maybe.
It's
I mean,
got to be
Cove
somebody
playing
that's played
blue.
like down south or something.
Who's played for? I'm trying to think. So Cove or Ross County would be.
Or
potential
is Alloa?
They're,
I don't know if is it Indo Drill? I don't know if Indo Drill are actually drilling, but
Aye.
maybe
bus travel.
Stagecoach or the Megabus.
Keith Watson, maybe. Nah, well, no, he wouldn't have fit into the offer.
No.
Uh,
Right.
I think you could be right with Alloa, to be fair.
Maybe.
I'm trying to think.
9
Again,
clubs,
I can't remember if
one
we've
of
had
the
him.
blue.
Can't remember if we've had him in a smalls before, but also he's played for that many clubs. I can't try to think how many he's would have played in blue. Christian Nadi.
would he have played
He
post
played at
COVID?
Stranraer.
He did. I don't think he
I'm
played
trying to
down
think.
at
Val
Stranraer.
McDermott.
He played for
The first
Dumbarton.
kit with Val McDermott, she took over from O'Connell's.
Sounds about right.
Was it? It was the first year. Her
That-
first
that-
kit was the first. It was the second year of the white kit. The white
So
with the 2
the year
stripes. The year
after
after
we
we
won
won the Ramsdens.
14.
That same
15?
strip changed from, I think it was O'Connell's, and it changed to Val McDermott.
Aye.
So was that the last season Callaghan was playing for us?
That would have been... Callaghan was the one when we'd just after
He's not had
we'd
9
been
clubs,
relegated.
though, is he?
No, I was
County.
trying to just get my sort of timeline.
All right, yeah. Because then we went into the blue kit with the white sleeves. The Declan McManus, Rudy Scatchell top.
Is that red myeloma kit?
The away kit, yeah, it was beautiful. And then we had the blue one with the light blue stripe down it.
Yeah.
Which was Barry Smith's season.
Aye.
Yeah. We had that for 2 seasons, didn't we?
Aye,
we did. And then
we
we had
used to having it for 2 seasons.
The weird speckly one.
What, the COVID season?
The one that we won the league in.
Oh,
the one that we won the league in. And then we had the first Joma one.
Aye.
And that's when Val got upset.
Actually, did she? No, it was the season after. It was the season after. Because that's that
the 50-50
first season
kit?
Yes, it was the 50-50 kit that the incident happened under.
Yeah.
So actually, it takes you right up to... Yeah.
2 seasons.
Long time.
Yeah, basically 2.5 seasons ago.
It's a long time.
I'm just going to go with Christian Nadi purely because I can't think of any other teams in blue he's played for other than Stranraer.
I don't think he played for Stranraer.
Did he not?
Armandone played for Stranraer. I remember. He was the
I
one
still feel like
Nadi's
been at Stranraer.
As did Gregory Taddy as well, actually. But
yeah.
Oh,
I don't think he was at Dumbarton.
He was at, and they play in Joma, or they did when he played.
Yeah.
I'm just going because I've got no other answer.
We've got to get another clue.
Yes. Clue 4. Over half of the league goals I have scored for Raith Rovers have come in the last 10 minutes of games.
Christian Nadi actually might be a good shout, Scott. The reason that I'm saying that is because I think that Dumbarton would have been sponsored actually by Bet Butler. But then I can't remember him playing for Stranraer. That's the thing.
To be fair, I was just trying to narrow down teams in blue that he'd played for.
Aye.
So, I was like, the only one I thought he might have played for was Stranraer. And I was like, it's only one team out of the other 9 clubs that he's allowed to have played in blue. I can't think of any. I'm trying to think of the sort of other teams he played at. See, he bounced around the lower leagues for ages.
Aye, because he went to East Fife before he was playing with us. He played for Dundee.
Did he?
Yeah, he played for Dundee the season that they won the
there's the team in blue then.
Aye.
Then
who's been a night? You're forgetting the night clue.
Hibs. Well, no, that would have been
Joma.
post-COVID. It would have been post-COVID as well. And that's the thing, I can't see him playing post-COVID.
Hibs, to be fair, have been a lot of gambling companies for sponsors.
Which makes me think he has to have moved out of Scotland. I don't think there's any clubs in Scotland wearing Nike. So he's gone down south. So, in my head, and I know he's not played for 9 clubs, but I'm at a Regan Henry.
Yeah.
But he's not 9 clubs.
See when we're talking about the kits, like the plain and blue, I'm guessing it's only home kits that we're talking about, Les.
Yeah, only
right,
home kits. Blue home kits.
We've already had a Gozi Ugwu. Manny Dooku's played for about 15, so he doesn't count.
He's only played for 9 since COVID.
Yeah.
9 this season.
Half the league goals came in the last 10 minutes. That doesn't have to be a lot of goals, though. That could just be 1 out of 2.
James Keatings?
I thought about James Keatings at one point, but
half of the league
He's
goals.
played
He
for
didn't score
Inverness.
any league goals.
He didn't score any.
Aye, that's a good point.
That's actually, he didn't score any for us. Yeah.
Funny, because the next thing I was going to say, well, Bet Marathon were the sponsors of Hibs kit when he played for them. Or Marathon Bet, whatever they're called.
Somebody that's come on loan, maybe. Jordan Thompson.
When did he score that cracker at Tannadice? Is that the first half?
Not in the last 10 minutes. That's a terrible.
He
Ryan
only, must
Hardy
have scored,
before,
he only must have scored like
We've
2 or
had
3.
Hardy.
Aye.
I've got no reason to change Nadi, so I'm just sticking with it.
An educational provider, too.
Ryan
You've got to go
Stevenson.
back to Fife College, but that's going back to like the early 2000s for us.
Aye. I'm going to gamble with Ryan Stevenson. Because I'm wondering if Stranraer maybe had a kit that was like... Again, would he have played post-COVID though? Nah, he wouldn't. Surely post-COVID's like too late.
He was playing for like... who's the junior side he was playing for before he started coaching? Was it Troon?
Troon. Yeah, he was at Troon.
I think we'll need clue 5.
Okay, clue 5. 3 career highlights include scoring a winner in a derby, playing in a cup final, and making a debut for my country.
Scoring a derby winner. Playing in a cup final, did you say?
As playing, yeah. You can interpret that how you wish.
Yeah, you didn't say winning. I think winning would be more of a highlight than playing. Look at Les's face gives nothing away. Come on, man.
Well, I've been learning from James Board, poker.
I can't remember.
So, 4D chess.
Again, I'm really not sure about with goals and stuff like that, if it's going to work. Isma Goncalves? He played for St Mirren.
I keep going back to Christian Nadi though. Like, because he's
actually, I'm getting back to Rudy Scatchell.
But then he didn't.
Well,
Rudy
what did
Scatchell
Wonga
didn't score for
come under?
Rovers.
There's a loan.
Yeah, he
he's
didn't
not
score.
His whole time at Hearts, they were playing under Wonga.com or something.
So he's got to be he's an internationalist. That narrows it down big time. Because we do not have a lot of internationalists.
Goncalves has played for, is it Guinea-Bissau or something?
Yeah.
No, that was Nando.
It was
Goncalves is the same country.
Is he the same?
I think so. Or it's just Guinea. It's one of them.
Internationals.
I'll change the Goncalves from Nadi. If it's Nadi, I'll be raging.
I'm sticking with Jordan Thompson for now. I still don't think it's right.
I'm going to love this if Leslie's pulled out like Willis Furtado and he's done all this research into like Italian kit manufacturers and all this nonsense. I think Ishmael's a good shout, or potentially Nadi. Again, it's just one of those ones which...
I hope this gives it away, this close 6, because we've not even got to one that's easy yet.
I think it will. I think someone could get this very quickly.
Right.
On social media, according to the quick research that I did this afternoon, I have a bigger following than almost any other recent Rover.
Christ.
So
28,000 followers on social media on one platform.
He's got to have done something outside of football.
You better start making up some new clues because... Right.
Who's like a popular figure that we've had? I just feel like
28,000.
Is it
That's a lot.
Platnik? He's staying silent, so it's not Platnik.
I was going to say when.
It is Paplat.
Well,
Is
I
it?
keep
It is.
thinking.
All right, okay.
Oh, is
Let's
it?
move on.
Oh,
Yeah.
are you going to tell us it
2-6.
wasn't the Fife derby that he scored in then?
No, I am. I'm going to tell you it wasn't the Fife derby scored, and it was indeed Matej Poplatnik. So, he played for Zarika Kranj, Triglav Kranj, Montana, Kerala Blasters, Kaposvari Radoshici, Livingston, Ilrigia 1911, MK Bravo, and Raith Rovers. The Nike kits since COVID were Livy and Slovenia. So the Slovenian national team playing Nike, as did Livingston did for one season.
There
He
you go.
scored against Partick in the 90th minute. He scored 2 goals in the last 10 minutes against Killy, and he scored in the 84th minute against Queen of the South. The bus travel company is Nomago, who sponsor NK Bravo. The drilling company is Phoenix Drilling, who sponsored Livy. The author is clearly Val McDermott. The education company is Bijus, who are the largest online provider of education in India. And the gambling website is Titbet, who were the sponsor of Kaposvari Rakoshici. Biggest games. So the derby. Aye. He scored a winning goal for Bravo against Olympia Ljubljana. Of course, didn't he played in and won the Challenge Cup final, and he was called up for and capped by Slovenia against the USA last in 20th of January 2024. And from his time at Kerala Blasters, he has 28,000 followers on Facebook.
No, I have to say, it was a really good game, Les. I'm really disappointed. Wow.
I genuinely thought I was maybe onto something with Goncalves just because he played that Challenge Cup final for us. And then he'd also played a cup final for St Mirren when he was at St Mirren. But then part of me was thinking, no, maybe they didn't have Joma kits at the time, St Mirren. Because back then
just
they were
fired
playing...
me down a kit manufacturer dark web. I couldn't get my head around Nike. I can't imagine Livingston playing in Nike. They're not big enough.
I do remember them being sponsored by that Phoenix lot. I do remember that
Yeah.
logo, but I couldn't have told you that they were in Nike.
I just checked there. Christian Nadi did play for Stranraer.
Did
I
it?
thought so.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well done, Scott.
There you go.
Right. Well, anyway, that's enough for this evening. I'm off to listen to the Terrace Podcast Patreon about Michael Tidser being away now, so that'll be a good laugh. Continue on the festivities. With the game on Friday, we will obviously be back, no doubt, either at some point on Saturday or Sunday, depending on when best fits our schedule. But thank you for taking the time to listen, and bye for now.